He already knew about the baby. He walked away to protect us. Send a letter. A photograph. A wooden box. I thought that was enough. I was wrong. Because last night I came home to find my apartment unlocked. And 4 words written above my baby's crib. We know about her. His world found us anyway. And now he's standing in my hospital corridor, looking at my pregnant belly. Afraid. This man who has never been afraid of anything in his life is afraid. And whatever scared him is already here. If this story has you hooked, subscribe to Afro Seoul Romance Tales right now. We are a small channel growing 1 subscriber at a time, and every single person who hits that button helps us reach more people who need to hear these stories. Hit subscribe and stay with me because part 2 is about to break your heart. Let me back up. 3 weeks ago, I saved his life on that operating table. For hours of surgery. Bullets removed. Collapsed lung repaired. Heart restarted. And when he woke up in the recovery room and recognized me from the fertility clinic, everything between us shifted permanently. He looked at my pregnant belly and he knew. I didn't have to say anything. My silence was enough. He knew the baby was his. He told me to keep it secret. Told me men like him don't get to be fathers. Told me the life he lived put targets on everyone he cared about. And then he walked out of my hospital on his own 2 feet despite 4 hours of surgery and disappeared. 3 days later, a wooden box arrived at the nurse's station. No return address. Inside was a letter and a photograph. Him at maybe 25. Smiling. Before the life he lives now hardened everything soft about him. The letter said, tell her I was human once. Tell her she saved my life just by existing. I put the box in my locker and told myself that was the end. I went back to work. Back to double shifts. Back to my half-finished nursery and pale yellow walls and the life I had chosen deliberately and alone. 7 months pregnant now. Moving slower. Sleeping worse. But moving forward the way I always had. On my own terms. For 3 weeks I convinced myself we were safe. For 3 weeks I was wrong. 4 nights ago, I came home from a 12-hour night shift at 6:30 in the morning. Seoul was waking up around me. Street vendors. Commuters. The particular kind of early morning energy that makes a city feel alive even when you personally feel completely destroyed. I was exhausted in the way that only happens when you are 7 months pregnant and have been on your feet for 12 consecutive hours. The kind of tired that lives in your bones, not just your body. I took the elevator. Walked to my door. And stopped. The door was unlocked. I always lock my door. 7 years in Seoul without exception. Lock the door. Check it twice. It is the one habit I have never once broken. The door was unlocked. I stood there for 30 seconds. Baby completely still inside me. The hallway silent around me. My hand on the door handle, not pushing it open yet. Just standing there while my body processed what my brain was already understanding. I should have walked away. Called security. Called the police. Called anyone except walked through that door alone at 6:30 in the morning while 7 months pregnant. I pushed the door open. The apartment looked normal. Nothing broken. Nothing overturned. Nothing immediately wrong. I moved through it slowly. Living room. Kitchen. Bathroom. All undisturbed. Then I walked to the nursery. Pale yellow walls. The crib I assembled alone on a Sunday watching YouTube tutorials because there was nobody else to do it. Tiny clothes organized by size in the open closet. The mobile of paper stars I made myself hanging above the crib because I had read that babies respond to handmade things. That they can sense the love in objects made specifically for them. I had spent 3 hours making those stars on a Wednesday night after a double shift because I wanted her first sight to be something her mother made with her own hands. Someone had been in this room. I could feel it before I saw it. The air was different. The specific stillness of a space that has been disturbed and then carefully rearranged to look undisturbed. Like when someone has read your diary and put it back exactly where they found it, but slightly wrong. You can't explain how you know. You just know. Then I looked at the wall above the crib. For words. Written in black marker in careful, deliberate letters. Not rushed. Not angry. Careful. Like someone who wanted to make sure I could read every single letter clearly. We know about her. I don't remember sitting down on the nursery floor. I just remember being there. Both hands pressed flat against my belly. The baby completely still, like she was holding her breath with me. The mobile of paper stars turning slowly above the crib in the draft from the open door. And those 4 words on the wall above everything I had built for her. We know about her. 4 words that meant nothing was over. Nothing was safe. Nothing was as contained as I had convinced myself it was for 3 weeks. I called Kim. She came within 20 minutes. Called the police. They arrived. Took photographs. Filled out a report. Said it was probably a random break-in. Probably someone who had the wrong apartment. Probably nothing to worry about. I nodded and said yes, officer, and thank you, officer, and I'll be careful, officer. And I said nothing about the most dangerous man in Seoul who had recently recovered from surgery in my hospital. Nothing about anonymous sperm donors and fertility clinics and wooden boxes with no return address. Nothing about any of it. The police left. Kim stayed until noon. Made me eat something. Made me sleep for 3 hours that I spent mostly staring at the ceiling. Held my hand and told me it was going to be fine. After she left, I went back to the nursery. Sat on the floor in front of the wall. Stared at those 4 words until they blurred at the edges. Then I got up. Got paint from the small can I had left over from painting the nursery. Painted over those 4 words with 2 careful coats of pale yellow. You couldn't see them anymore. But I could still feel them there underneath the paint. Present and permanent even when invisible. That night, for the first time since I moved to Seoul 9 years ago, I did not feel safe in my own home. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was the 2 days after. Going to work. Coming home. Checking the door obsessively. Sleeping with the light on. Jumping at sounds in the hallway. Moving through my own life like a stranger in it. 7 months pregnant and suddenly terrified in a way that had nothing to do with becoming a mother alone. Terrified because somewhere in this city people knew about my daughter before she was even born. And they had chosen to tell me that they knew not by doing anything, but by writing 4 words above her crib. Which meant the message wasn't a threat. It was a warning. 2 days after I painted over the words, he walked into my hospital. Dark suit. Not injured. Not bleeding. Just there. Standing at the end of the corridor during morning shift change, looking like he owned the entire building and everything in it. Like 3 weeks hadn't passed. Like he hadn't walked out of this hospital and sent a wooden box and disappeared. Our eyes met across the hall. And that's when I saw it. The fear. Not the controlled danger I had seen when he threatened my surgical team with 4 words. Not the vulnerability I had seen when he sat up in recovery and put the pieces together about the baby. Not even the grief I had seen when he stood in my supply room with his head in his hands. This was different. This was fear. Real and undisguised and sitting on his face like something he couldn't control no matter how hard he tried. This man who had walked out of 4 hours of surgery on his own feet. This man who had faced 5 men in black suits threatening an entire surgical team without flinching. Was afraid. And whatever he was afraid of, it was already here. Quick question before we go further. What kind of story do you want to see next on this channel? A chaebol heir hiding his identity? A Korean doctor with a dangerous secret? A K-pop idol who falls for someone he can never have? Drop your answer in the comments right now. I read every single one, and the most voted idea becomes the next story on Afro Seoul Romance Tales. He crossed the corridor in 12 steps. I counted because counting gave my brain something to do that wasn't panic. 12 steps, and then he was right there. Close enough that I could see the tension in his jaw. The way his eyes kept moving over my shoulder to check the space behind me. The particular alertness of someone managing a crisis they haven't told you about yet. He looked at my pregnant belly. I need you to come with me. Not hello. Not I'm sorry. Not are you okay after someone broke into your home and left a message above your unborn daughter's crib. Just those 6 words in a low-controlled voice while his eyes scanned the corridor like he was expecting something to happen at any moment. Are you responsible for what happened to my apartment? I said. Not directly. That's not a no. His jaw tightened. I'm trying to fix it. I stared at him. Fix it. Someone broke into my home. Wrote on the wall above my baby's crib. And he was trying to fix it. How long have you known they found me? 48 hours. 2 days. He had known for 2 days. Something moved across his face. I was handling it. Trying to handle it without bringing you further into this. How is that working out? He said nothing, which told me everything. The corridor moved around us. Nurses passing. Orderlies with carts. The ordinary machinery of a hospital morning, completely indifferent to the fact that I was standing 2 feet away from the father of my unborn daughter, who had apparently led an entire criminal organization directly to my front door. Come with me, he said again. Differently this time. The edge of something that was almost a request underneath the urgency. Where? Outside the city. I have a place. Safe house. You'd be protected. Both of you. I looked at him for a long moment. I'm 35 weeks pregnant, I said. I have a job. A life. An apartment I have spent 9 years building. You want me to walk away from all of that because anonymous turned out to be impossible? I want you to stay alive, he said quietly. Both of you. The baby kicked hard against my ribs. Like she was participating in the conversation. Like she had an opinion about her own survival. Let me think, I said. He nodded once. Then he said something I wasn't expecting. Can I see it? I looked at him. See what? The nursery. His voice was careful. Like he already knew the answer might be no and had decided to ask anyway. I stood there in the corridor of my hospital. 7 months pregnant. Exhausted. Afraid. Looking at the man who had given me the greatest gift of my life without knowing it and then managed to put that gift in danger before she was even born. And I said yes. I don't fully understand why I said yes. Maybe because I was tired of carrying everything alone. Maybe because despite the fear and the chaos and the 4 words painted over on my nursery wall, she was still his daughter too. Maybe because somewhere beneath the anger I understood that he was here. Standing in my hospital. Afraid. And that meant something even if I couldn't name exactly what. We left separately. He followed in a car I didn't see until I was already on the street. I took the subway. Watched Seoul move past the windows. Tried to decide if I was being brave or reckless or both simultaneously. My apartment was quiet when I got home. The nursery smelled like fresh paint over something I was trying to forget. He knocked exactly 3 minutes after I arrived. I opened the door. He stepped inside. Looked at the living room without commenting. The careful absorption of someone taking in a space that tells them something important. I took him to the nursery. He stood in the doorway. Pale yellow walls. The crib. The tiny clothes. The mobile of paper stars turning slowly. The bookshelf with picture books I had already started reading aloud because babies can hear from the womb and I wanted her first stories to be good ones. He stood there for a long time. I watched something move through him slowly. Starting somewhere behind his eyes and traveling down until his jaw was no longer tight and his shoulders dropped slightly and he looked for one unguarded moment like someone who had just understood something enormous. He walked to the crib. Ran one hand along the rail. Looked at the mobile. Looked at the tiny clothes. Looked at the bookshelf. You made the stars, he said. I nodded. He was quiet for a moment that stretched long enough to have weight. She's going to be loved, he said. Not a question. A statement made by someone looking at evidence. Yes, I said. She is. He turned to look at me. The way he had in the recovery room. Like he was trying to memorize something before it disappeared. I'm going to get you out of this, he said. Whatever it takes. Before we continue, I want to know something. Where are you watching this from right now? And how is the weather over there? Drop your city and the weather in the comments. I genuinely love knowing where in the world Afro Seoul Romance Tales is reaching people. Every comment means everything to a small channel like ours. I want to believe you, I told him. He nodded. I know I haven't given you reasons to. No, you haven't. The nursery was quiet between us. The mobile turning. The tiny clothes hanging still. He reached into his jacket and placed a phone on the bookshelf next to the picture books. New. Still in the box. My number is the only one in it, he said. Anytime. Day or night. Anything feels wrong. You call and I will be there in under 20 minutes. I looked at the phone. Then at him. You've been watching my building, I said. It wasn't a question. I had felt it for 3 days without being able to name it. He didn't deny it. Yes. That should have frightened me more than it did. How bad is it? I asked. Tell me the truth this time. All of it. He considered for a moment. Then he sat down on the nursery floor. This broad-shouldered man in a perfectly tailored dark suit sitting cross-legged on my pale yellow nursery floor because I needed him at eye level, and he understood that without being told. I sat down across from him. 7 months pregnant sitting on a floor is not elegant. It just is what it is. The people who shot me, he said. They found out about the donation. About the pregnancy. They're using it as leverage. As long as you're here in this city in this apartment, they have something to use against me. So we're bait, I said. He flinched. Just slightly. Just enough. Yes. And the only way to remove the leverage is to move us somewhere they can't find us. Yes. I looked at him across my nursery floor. Both of us sitting on pale yellow carpet, surrounded by tiny clothes and paper stars and picture books I had collected for a daughter who wasn't born yet. Why did you donate? I asked. He looked at me. The real reason. Not the money. The real reason. A long silence. The kind that has something living inside it. I was trying to leave, he said finally. The life. The organization. Everything. I had been trying to get out for 2 years. I needed money that couldn't be traced. Clean money. The clinic paid in cash and asked no questions, and I thought it was anonymous. I thought it was the cleanest thing I had done in years. He paused. I didn't think about what it meant on the other end. That there was a person. That something real would come from it. I just thought about getting out. And now, I said. He looked at the crib. The mobile of paper stars. Back at me. Now I think about her every day. And I think about you. And I think that getting out means something different than it used to. The baby moved. A long, slow rolling movement like she was turning to listen. He watched my belly. Something open and undefended on his face. Does she do that a lot? He asked. More when it's quiet, I said. Like she's paying attention. He nodded like he was storing this information somewhere careful. We sat on that floor for a long time. Not saying anything. The mobile turning above the empty crib. Seoul outside the window going about its afternoon like nothing extraordinary was happening inside this small apartment. Then he said something quietly that I wasn't ready for. Something that reframed everything I thought I understood about why he had really come back. Something that meant this was no longer just about danger or protection or leverage. Something that changed the shape of everything going forward. But what he said and what I said back and what we decided together in that nursery on that pale yellow floor. That is part 3. And part 3 is the one that will break you completely open. Subscribe to Afro Seoul Romance Tales right now if you haven't already. Hit the bell so you don't miss part 3 when it drops in 3 days. Comment part 3 in the comments right now if you are ready, because what he says next changes absolutely everything. And I mean everything. We are a small channel growing one story at a time, and every single subscriber helps us reach more people who deserve to hear these stories. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. I will see you in part 3.